we're conditioned to kind of listen to authority and spokespersons and think, that makes sense, that must be important. And it was so important, we ran it in my first headline. I'm sorry, I didn't understand a word that the White House spokesperson said in that bite. What? It was like a word soup of reimposed, reciprocal. But could you want to listen to it again? Did anyone else? Could any of you understand? Just play it again and see if I missed something.
The deadline is not critical. The president can simply provide these countries with a deal if they refuse to make us one by the deadline, and that means the president can pick a reciprocal tariff rate that he believes is advantageous for the United States.
It is a little bit complex, isn't it? Pretty much we could go in that direction,
Am I being
we could go back in that direction, or we could pick that, or we could go that way.
You guys are really smart. I'm the one who has bouts of real thickness here, and a bit of a dope. I didn't understand a word she said. What? Deadlines are not critical? Yeah, they kind of are, because they're deadlines. But if they're providing a deal, they're not doing a deal, we can have reciprocal and have reciprocal if they provide a deal and if the president gets a deal. I don't know what she's talking about. I have no idea what she's talking about.
Everything's up in the air. That's all you need to know, that things can be negotiated or they may not be.
I think the other point here is it's not just the reciprocal tariffs that are on the table unresolved here. You've still got sectoral tariffs to think about. And when it comes to the U.S. negotiations with a number of countries, we understand that there's hesitance on the part of many of these countries because they don't know where we're going to land on things like pharmaceuticals, on steel, on chips. So how do you come to the table on a country-level deal when you still don't know how you're going to be impacted on all these other
Apologies to our
sectors?
viewers, because we're supposed to be informed, but I've added more lack of clarity. I've added opacity and fog because I don't understand the actual news.
Well, I'm not sure you have added lack of clarity because I think that was the message that came through from the White House. We're all counting down to this 9th of July deadline.
No, we're not. She just said the deadline's not critical.
That's the point. Now it's seemingly
that's the other bit I didn't get.
The 9th of July may not be some sort of magic date we get to and then we emerge from the other side. And let's face it, Liberation Day had that same impact. We all thought we'd get to Liberation Day, emerge from the other side, and finally, even if it was a sort of punishing news, at least there would be certainty for markets that we could get on with it. I think what we're getting through from this messaging is exactly the same thing as Liberation Day. There will be no pushing forward with this clear view on tariff policy come the 9th of July.
I'm so glad the markets have taken this on board and been really pragmatic and measured about it. Oh no, they've gone to record highs again.
Well, this is what I mean. What I was about to say. Have we learned our lesson?
No.
From April 2nd?
Never.
Markets believe that Trump would never go ahead
from
with
2007,
like
from March 2020. Have we learnt our lesson? I don't think so. We never do.
Well, the 90-day pause on so-called reciprocal tariffs is due to end on the 8th of July, and Trump's 50% levy on imports from the EU is due to come into effect on the 9th of July. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told Bloomberg the US is working on, quote, the top 10 deals, while adding that the US and China have signed the trade understanding previously struck in Geneva. That's the trade truce. Now, meanwhile, the president has signalled that his administration will determine tariff levels on other countries where a deal cannot be agreed before the deadline. Trump officials have repeatedly signalled that deals are close, with National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett telling Fox Business earlier this week that he expects to see a sequence of trade deals after Congress passes the Trump-backed tax and spending bill. Meanwhile, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen confirmed the European Union is assessing the latest trade proposal received from the US. Von der Leyen did not disclose the contents of the proposal, reiterating calls for a deal while stressing that all options remain on the table.
I briefed leaders on the current state of play in our trade talks with the United States. President Trump and I had a good discussion at the G7 summit in Canada. Back then, we agreed to speed up the work with a clear goal, an agreement before the 9th of July. Today, we received the latest US document for further negotiations. We are assessing it as we speak right now. So our message today is clear. We are ready for a deal. At the same time, we are preparing for the possibility that no satisfactory agreement is reached. This is why we consulted on a rebalancing list. And we will defend the European interest as needed. In short, all options remain on the table.
UBS says changes in tariff policy are denting confidence in the US more than anywhere else. Arend Kapteyn is the chief economist at UBS and joins us now. Arend, thank you so much for joining us. There's mounting evidence in recent days that there is a tariff effect still coming for economies. We saw it in the Nike commentary yesterday saying the implementation of price increases in fall. H&M was talking about more price competition, elevated prices in the United States. We've had central banks staying on the sidelines. Jay Powell concerned that we still have the onslaught coming. Is it all ahead of us?
Well, yes, and you can actually see it in the Treasury data, right? So the Treasury has basically daily data. You can see what they're collecting in terms of tariffs. They're now collecting at an annualized rate of $300 billion, right? So, of course, people then look at the CPI data and where is it, but it's imminent, right? I think the next month is going to start to show it. It's really the July print, though, which you get in August, that's going to, I think, fully capture, I think, the extent of the tariffs.
It's one thing to see a step up in prices, and there's another to see a step up in inflation that is lingering. And that is the debate for central banks at this stage, and to the argument as to whether Trump is right and whether interest rates should be cut from here or whether central banks are right to be more cautious. Which one is it?
Well, he's not right. So I think there's a few issues with CPI, right? So one is that a very large part of the basket only gets sampled once every 2 months, right? So it's only New York and Chicago and LA that gets sampled every month. Now, there's a 2-month lag between the tariffs and CPI. So the May print was a March tariff configuration. Of course, that's before Liberation Day. The next print, June, is going to be the one that captures April. But even the June one, you're going to not fully see it because of the sampling issue, but also because firms are still drawing down the cheaper inventories. They might not have fully sort of had to switch yet to the more expensive replenishment of the inventory. So it's really sort of a little bit further ahead of us. I think July is sort of the start. And then you're going to have a 5-month period where I think we'll really see sort of goods prices ramp up and reflect what's already happening in the Treasury data.
And I think we're all sitting here a little bit puzzled as to why markets have run away with themselves again. I mean, we're back at the highs for the NASDAQ, the S&P 500. Can you give us a little bit of color on what your clients are asking about, talking about, to maybe give us a sense of what's driving the market narrative?
There's sort of two elements to it. One is what Steve was referring to earlier, is that we were promised 90 trade deals in 90 days, and we got one. So if you're trading the market, you don't want to be short if there's the risk of constant sort of trade deal headlines, right? So that's sort of one thing you're navigating. And then on the other hand, even if you are bearish on tariffs, the data deterioration could be a few months ahead of us. So there's a timing mismatch between sort of concern and I think how you have to trade the headlines. The other is, though, that I think a large part of our client base really does believe in the taco trade, right? And I think that the interpretation of sort of taco or Trump always chickens out is very different from my interpretation, right? So yes, there have been pivots, but the pivots have been at very high levels of escalation, right? Going from 145 for China to something where we are now. It's not going to sort of a zero tariff environment. And I think that's sort of the danger here, is that everyone's getting stuck with the base rate of 10. We got the sectoral tariffs still to come, which are really going to keep, I think, the weighted average pretty close to where we are today.